Welcome back to House Guests with me, Haley Lowe Fennell. I'm a psychic medium, and this is the podcast that connects you to the other side. Thank you, Trey, for coming on. This is one of the episodes that is a reading for the College of Charleston research project, and you guys are going to want to listen through to the end because we have a really great conversation about the people that came through for Trey and what it is that he currently does for work and in school, and how he connects into the other side, which is always so fun for me to listen to. There's also something cool that happens in this episode where I talk about getting it wrong. I am trying as best I can. Sometimes I don't think about it in the moment, but I'm trying as best I can to be as transparent in the moment as to how it is that I'm doing what I'm doing and why it's important to keep going. So I hope that you guys heard that part of the message, how important it is to just keep going. Thank you guys for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, share with a friend if you can. It helps the podcast reach more people, which means I get to connect in with more people, even if they don't book a reading with me. Because I always give ways for you guys to do that in here. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that you enjoy and have a great day. I love you. Welcome back to House Guest with me, Haley Lowe Fennell. I'm a psychic medium, and this is the podcast that connects you to the other side. Today, I'm sitting with Trey. Welcome, Trey. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Haley.
We are going to jump into a psychic medium reading. This is for a research study through the College of Charleston with Dr. Beth Sundstrom and Dr. Melinda Rothaus. And for all intents and purposes, it's just going to be a reading like any other one that I give. So what I'm going to do, Trey, is I'll close my eyes a lot. You might see me looking down. I tend to scribble and take notes. See if there's an example from an earlier one. That's one from earlier today.
Yeah.
So you won't necessarily be able to read it. Feel free to take your own notes, though you'll get the added privilege of getting to listen to it again anyways. If there are any moments that you just want to take a break, you just let me know. It doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't mess up the rhythm or the flow of the reading. And I have a producer that comes on the podcast and she'll just pause it for us and then it'll start back up when we start back up. So you just wave me down and let me know. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. I also close my eyes a lot. I like to warn people about that. But the goal is to connect in with your soul, your guides, anyone who has passed away and is on the other side that would like to come forward and give you messages today, here and now. There's lots of different psychic mediums that do it a lot of different kind of ways. For me, they come through and they really have supportive messages for you from the other side. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you gain clarity and direction. And so they're never going to give me information to pass along to you to stop you in your path. I just don't think that that's how they work from the other side. And maybe that's why I don't get those messages, but that is how it goes for at least me. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we start?
No.
Okay.
I'm excited. So.
Okay, good. Me too. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my eyes. You can close your eyes too if you want. I'm going to do a little breathing exercise, or you can leave them open. It works either way. And just start taking a few really good deep breaths. And just start to imagine that we're meeting in a really big, wide open field. Imagine that we're starting to communicate without having to talk. And then imagine that anybody and everybody you know who has passed away and is on the other side is coming forward. Imagine that they see here and know you, that they know everything that you've been through, everything that you're going through. And then just imagine them coming a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And then just take a really big deep breath. And then just imagine that they're coming forward with loving and supportive messages that no matter who they were in their life, they are now on the other side, ready, willing, and able to support you. And then just take another really big deep breath. And then just imagine that they come so close, you might even start to feel them in the room with you, or you might just be aware of them. And then just take one more big deep breath as you feel them come even closer. And you can open your eyes. I'm going to open mine too. Okay. All right. You have this one main guide that like comes forward right away. In my belief, I kind of feel like we probably have many, many, many guides. It might quite possibly be infinite, but I'm just kind of focusing in on this one for you now. And I think that there's some people on the other side that are going to come forward soon as well. But when I have this guide come forward, they center themselves right in front of me. And then I'm just going to stay quiet just for a second. They're just going to come a little bit closer. Okay, hold on. Okay, they kind of want to talk more about career just to start. They're like, it feels like this is an important part that they need to say. They keep going like this to me, and I'm going to try to describe this as best they can. It's a little bit like we have so many steps out in front of us, and you're very good at like knowing what the next multiple steps out in front of you are. And so it's kind of a matter of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I just need to do these 5 things, and then I'll get to where I need to be. Does that make sense to you? But constantly putting things out in front of you. The only thing that they want you to do, and you probably do already realize this, is like you've already made it. Does that make sense to you? They're like, we want him to kind of let himself feel it more, is the feeling that they give me. So instead of constantly being like, okay, like I accomplished these 5 things, instead of coming up with the next 5 things, I'm going to say this in 2 different ways in a second, and it's going to sound a little bit contradictory, but
Go for
it. Instead of coming up with the next 5 things, just like enjoy, like allow yourself like the pat on the back. They make it feel really important. Like he doesn't often let himself celebrate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then the contradictory thing that I was going to say is I feel like you can't quite help yourself, but put those next 5 steps in front of you anyways. Does that make sense? It's like
Sure.
you're constantly just planning, and that's okay because it's just a pattern of how you work. So we can also honor that too. Be like, well, no, like he's just like as soon as he gets done with step 1, he's added on step by step by step. It's a great way to work. It's the thing that has kept the ball rolling for you forward in life. They just want to remind you to like congratulate yourself. Like the goals that you have met today didn't exist 10 years ago.
Right.
And you just kind of forgot to celebrate them along the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So maybe even like allow yourself to throw yourself like one nice big party. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's great.
And I say they as in like the singular guide, but also all your guides. It's kind of like they've all jumped in at once. And that can include some loved ones on the other side that are like, we want to celebrate with them. But they're really proud of how far you've come. You're also currently doing something quite different than you had previously planned, or something that you couldn't have even fathomed as a child. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I have said this on the podcast before, like if I were able to right now tell my 9-year-old self that this is what I would be doing in my future, she'd be quite thrilled. Maybe a little confused, like that's even a possibility, an option, but she'd be thrilled. Even though it's not something that you thought was possible as a kid, does that make sense to you? Like if you were to turn towards your 9-year-old self now, he would be quite thrilled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
That's a little bit of like a we've made it sort of thing. Like we're doing the thing. It's not over by any means. There's still, fine, I'll say that. There's still work to be done is how they put it. There's work to be done. But even in that, it's like an exciting, like a soul fulfilling, it feels really good work to be done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
They also say that there's something bigger coming, that you've felt it for quite some time, and you're having a hard time grabbing onto what that could be because you already thought you were doing the big thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not worry about it. It's we're glad you feel it is more the feeling around it. Like we're glad you feel that. Just trust that there's something else coming, but it's not going to be as big of a shift or as big as a jump as you think it's going to be. Does that make sense? They go, all of that is to say that we have your back. Like we have your back, and that big thing coming, the fact that you know it's coming, it's not to scare you or stop you or to get you to change gears quite yet. It's just to let you know that we're just not quite done yet. Like you're not done yet is how they put it. And then when I focus in on people who are coming from the other side, like your guides are kind of like, hey, we can focus in a few of these different directions. that we could be going in. I get someone that comes in at an angle. That's a funny one for me. Sometimes it can mean like an aunt or uncle, like a very important aunt, uncle that could be coming in. But sometimes it also means, hold on. I'll be good. Okay. Or like a guardian or in-law of some sort. Does that make sense to you? Like I would have been close with Trey and had like some sort of important role in your life. Does that make sense to you?
hmm
Okay. Good. Are you okay if they come in? Like, do you know who that person is and if they just come in?
Maybe if I maybe get a little more information, I might be able to kind of pinpoint where they're at. But yeah, I'm totally good with
Okay,
everybody
good.
coming in or whoever coming in.
Oh, good. Okay, fine. I'm going to describe it that way. They just go, look, describe me this way. They come in at an angle, and I'm going to make sure that sounds sure. I'm not sure what the angle totally means, like, because it can be so many different things for me, but they come in and they point towards my heart, which means like I'm very important to Trey. I feel close to Trey, not as close as I can imagine like a parent being, just to be clear on that. Like they don't feel as though they have that much responsibility for you as I could imagine a parent has responsibility for you. But they come in and they want to like hover over this parental spot for me though. Like usually this does mean parent for me. So it's like I'm close, but I'm not quite parental, but I feel important to Trey. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, possibly.
Okay, perfect. And a possibly or a maybe is totally fine. Good. Okay, and they do have a sense of likability about them. What I did is I just asked them, I said, like, are you a parent, but you weren't actually close with Trey? And to me, it actually feels more like, I'm more like someone in Trey's life. He likes me. He looks up to me. That sort of thing. Even could look up to them as a mentor of some sort. Does that make sense? And feels slightly more male to me than female. Like here I am coming in. I feel as though I learned things from Trey, sure, but really he's learning things from me. And I feel kind of quirky and unique and different, and I'm showing him how to live life in a different sort of way, and they're enjoying that aspect of themselves. Does that make sense?
Let me see. I'm trying to think. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm trying to place it. I don't know exactly. I'm thinking of a few people, but I'm not sure exactly. It might have been somebody that because I've got some other family members that could potentially fit that position, but I'm not. I'm trying to figure out where to place them.
That's okay. They're going about it in a very different way that I'm used to doing it. Usually I can hang on to like an aunt or an uncle pretty easily because they'll come in at this angle. It just like feels like that to me. And so I was like, ooh, are you coming in at an angle because you're that? I think it's a little bit of a no, like I'm not quite that. I'm kind of this other person to Trey. And so it might even be a relationship that don't have all that much experience in. So I'm going to go about it in a funny way because they're going about it in a funny way. So if I were to take away the information of like aunt or uncle and just be like, fine, but you can still kind of come in this sort of other than parental spot, I could even group them in parents' generation in general. And then they come in more as like a mentor or a fun person in your life in that way. Does that make more sense?
So I am thinking of someone, but they would be in that tier, but just be, and maybe they thought it was that way, but I don't know if I ever viewed it that way. So I don't know, maybe that was the message or how they viewed it or whatever, potentially, because it was like a very different relationship. But it would be that tier of like age, I guess.
Yeah, that's perfect. Hold that person just in your thoughts for a second, and I'm just gonna see if I can bounce off a few things to you. Okay, a little bit good. Hold on. They give me kind of like a funny feeling around it, which is fine. I'll say that more clearly. They say that more clearly, which means I feel like, okay, like I'm hanging on to this sort of different idea. And I might even just ask you a little bit, be like, what is that relationship with that person? But what I want to do is kind of get into this really pretty spot of it so that I'm connected in. It's more for me so that I know that I'm connected in. Lovely, good. Okay. Could you, even if it's not in the most direct way, see them as like mentor or trying to teach you things and they kind of think they're funny about it or they're like,
Yeah, I could definitely see the role of the perceived mentor for sure.
okay.
That would be, or being funny about that. Like I could definitely see that. I don't know if it would be the perception from my end
Yes.
necessarily, but
But
maybe
who they
like
thought they were to you.
yeah, potentially for sure, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I love it. It's very different for me. It gives me a bit of a smile and a bit of like this funny feeling. And whenever I get that, it's like, oh gosh, like I don't have a choice but to say it, even if I'm even hesitant of like, could this make sense? Does this make sense? It's like, they like kind of don't care what I think of what I'm saying. They just want me to
sure.
like have fun with it. And I kind of like that. I like that you're like, I wouldn't have seen them that way, but it's funny that they do.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. And do you see, fine, lovely, good. Hold on. I'm gonna have them come a little bit closer. Okay, hold on. That's it. Hold on. They just said something. I'm gonna write that down just so I don't forget it. Okay, fine. There we go. And then do you even see that there's even more lessons from his passing, or there's like lessons to be learned from his passing? Like there's even more since his passing that we get to know of him. And so then there's even more brought to life from that. Does that make sense to you?
Well, so I guess the person that I would be thinking about was female, but
Okay.
so I don't know. Maybe it's somebody else that's coming through too, because there's probably there could be definitely multiple people, and I think that's might be what there might be a lot of information too, because there are several people. So that's another thing that's like a lot of that's what I'm guessing could potentially be happening because there are new like qualities of all of these things from various people that have passed,
Oh,
if that
okay.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
makes sense. And occasionally it happens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate out female. Okay. This kind of like person that's like, I feel as though I passed along information to Trey, like especially since passing, or there's a lot to be learned from my passing, feels a bit more male to me. And
okay.
even if like we take the mentor part out or in, I could see the female being more in parents' generation, but that's fine. That's what she just said. But if we take this male and he comes in, he kind of comes in, he's going to separate himself out into this angle. He still feels as though he's kind of in this sort of older generation, I'll say. And he kind of wants to come off as a bit of like a know-it-all or I know things in life, but not really. Because then I pass and there's something about my passing where Trey then gets to learn more about me and more things come from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, it's funny because I feel like that keeps flip flopping. So it's like the like
I
that would
love
be exactly how I would describe the lady for sure.
Oh, I
Like,
love it. I can
yeah,
be wrong sometimes.
yeah,
Like, I mean, like we just are.
because that, but it's making me think that it's like that is 100% like
Definitely.
how this person would she would come across and like that relationship. So it's almost like these two pieces that are coming in that are it's like they're tag
I love
teaming and
it.
kind of going back and forth. But like that energy is correct for sure.
It's
And
perfect.
yeah,
I
and
was
it
in the,
fits in on probably her side for
okay,
sure.
I'm going to say her. I was in a reading right before this and I was describing a grandparent and who I thought was grandfather. And she was like, you described this person to a T, but it's grandmother. But
Yeah.
she had like a bunch of masculine energy. And I was like, it's sometimes there's like a lesson in that for me of like, ooh, that's interesting. Like there's this nuance to mediumship where sometimes I do get gender wrong. I will say
Yeah.
whenever anyone asks me like if they're pregnant and what gender they're having, I'm like, don't ask me. I get it wrong. Like
No,
I got it wrong for myself. I'll get it wrong.
yeah. No,
Um,
I totally I could totally get that too. And I would imagine there's a like the energy is feeling it through energy is such a different it's like a
yeah,
totally different experience. So I would imagine like and also like the energy that she puts off would also be very masculine too. So
I
that's
love that.
like
They're like
that's so
lesson right in conjunction from the other one. It's perfect.
yeah
And that's like
yeah
for me, like they're teaching me every single reading as much as I love to do what I do. It's such a funny, fun, I'm going to say it's a funny but fun game to be like, oh yeah, like it's really important. This just goes for everyone listening. Like it's so important to not always be right because then we get to learn so much more. Okay, I love it. I'm gonna call her a her. There's also this whole, I get caught up in this all the time. So I'm like, does it even matter? Like on the other side, is gender even a thing? It's likely not. Like I don't think we have gender when we get to the other side. Like we just are energy. But getting caught up in that sometimes isn't helpful in readings. She's laughing at me a little bit. Okay, hold on. She's going to come in a little bit closer. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, fine. I'm going to ask you about that. She had me write down this thing where she was like, from my death, we feel a lot of weight, like a weight on our chests, but we get to learn a lot from it. Does that make sense to you? Okay. And she just says, if there's anything I'm thankful for, it's that. Like, I'm thankful that there was like this other end of it, but also that this connection where she goes, if I thought I was mentor to him before, I really can be and am mentor to Trey now. Like I can come in for him on the other side. He's learned much more about this, something with this passing that's more important now that I'm over here. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And she just says like, thank you for seeing it that way. She gets a little bit more serious than she has been up until this point. And she's just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, lovely, good. Hold on. She's gonna come in a little bit closer. Okay. I know I described her as kind of funny before, but maybe it's more like the way she thought of herself is a little bit quirky, funny to us. But she goes, but I was kind of a serious person in life, could be quite sharp. Does that make sense to you? Even a little like cutting or sharp. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And she's like not quick-witted or anything like that, just sharp with my words. Does that make sense? Yeah. She did just do something funny in my mind. She's like a little bit like sorry, not sorry. Like it's a little bit like, gosh, I am sorry that I was that way, but I'm also have given myself so much forgiveness for being the way I was. She does mention, she goes, if I am sorry for anything, she goes, which there's more than just this, of course. She's like, but I did teach people the wrong way, or I was teaching people the wrong things. Does that make sense to you? Like too strict about it, too closed-minded about it. Does that make sense? She goes, the floodgates have opened here on the other side for me, and I just totally see, hear, and know everything. And she's like, I was wrong, and a little bit like Trey, you were right. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And she says, thank you for like pushing against me or even butting heads against me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
I'm going to ask you a funny question. If you're willing to share it, what is it that you learned from her passing? Do you feel like you understand that little bit of information?
That is a good question because it's,
and you don't have to answer it either.
Yeah. No, I think that there has been a lot that I've learned since her passing that has been like tremendous, like a lot of growth or just a lot of change. And at the time it was just like, that just wasn't really something that I thought about or cared to think about. And, I don't know how much of it would have necessarily changed the actions, but it definitely would have changed kind of like how I mentally approached the situations and like kind of held that space and was present within the situation. And so there has been a tremendous amount of change of just my own, receptivity or just my own like posture, so to say. Yeah. So it's like when I think of learn, I don't know if I would think of it like didactically, but like learning from the sense of just the experience and like overall positional like awareness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. She, like, as you're talking, she kind of mentions even like your relationship with family has changed since her passing, or there's some sort of like, even like the ability to put in the boundaries that you needed to put in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And totally. It's like it didn't even have to necessarily do with her passing, but since her passing. Does that make sense? And like an okay to be different or to separate yourself out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And then she just gives me this nudge to kind of look elsewhere real quick. Do you understand a parent on the other side that has passed away?
A parent? My parent?
A parent,
yeah.
Yes. Are you okay if I connect in with them?
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is not even focus in on gender right now. They just got like a little kick out of that. They're like, don't worry about that. Just focus in on me. Okay. I know I was just kind of talking about this like a separation from family or even just like a being different than family. And they just recognize like a being different from me sort of thing. And being like, can we like if I were there with you in person, I'd be like, oh, like Trey, let me give you a big hug, like a congratulations, like it's a good thing. Like, let's really honor that. They're like, Trey, can you do that for yourself? Like same thing as this main guide coming in, like you were meant to kind of have this push and pull with this parent to be different. So to come to the point of like, it's good to be different. Like I'm not supposed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
There is like a lot of like apologies from the other side. I'm going to explain this in the best way I can. I think you already understand it anyways. But this is kind of more for the listeners out there. It's not that they have to apologize because they get it. Like they have so much compassion for themselves and who they were in life, but also for us and who we were. But they do want to throw it out there sometimes. Like sometimes in readings, they see it so much and they just know that who I'm sitting with needs for them to know that they know. Like they know that who they were wasn't conducive to who you were meant to become. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so there's like like they could give me like a huge ball of apologies and it kind of feels like a ball of yarn that I have to like keep unraveling it with like, and I'm sorry for this and this and this. And they're like, there's just so much, Haley. And can you just please tell Trey that of course I'm sorry. And it's a little bit like we're sorry. There might be some other people with that person on the other side too. And it's like, but please, like the more important thing is that Trey knows how much we love and support and are there for him now. We get it. We get him. And that the choices he made were so necessary for him to get to where he is now. And it's like a thank you for separating from me or a thank you from like for going the other way and not listening to me. Does that make sense?
For sure. For sure.
Have them come a little bit closer. I think they bring forward someone a little bit younger on the other side too. That's like, and it feels like a relative, like here I am with this relative. And then of course with the woman that I was with earlier. Okay, lovely, good, good. And so a little bit like I want to let you know how much I see here from the other side, but I think you already know that. They kind of acknowledge that. Okay, lovely, good. They also say it's okay that you don't think about me all that much. Like that you've kind of put this bookend of your life over here. Like you don't always like necessarily need my spiritual guidance is how they put it. They just did a funny thing. They're like, or Haley's, like neither. Like you have your own way of like aligning your own guidance and you're quite good at following it. And very like excited about that.
Yeah, that's good.
A little bit like see what Haley's doing, but then see what you're doing and like see how cool it is that you guys do it differently. Does that make sense?
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you about that in a little bit because it sounds cool. Like almost like we could flip flop, but it's cool that we're doing it differently. Without me knowing what you do, I'm very intrigued. But okay, hold on. Trey, do you understand? Do you work with people though? Like they go back to our very initial conversation. I can't remember if I had hit record yet or not. I'm thinking I did. To where I was like, ooh, like I get these supportive messages, like that's how the other side works with me. Do you understand that sometimes you work with people and it's a little bit more about, I kind of would want to say that I work with like deeper, darker things, but you truly work with sometimes with some deeper, darker things. Does that make sense?
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. With like other people too.
That's good. Yeah.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
They like, this is my hand with like a bunch of crystals growing from it for whatever reason. They're like, that's his power. Like he brings darkness to light is how they put it. And so like that is one of your life purposes here on earth. And like you honor it so incredibly deeply and in such a beautiful way that they couldn't do it themselves for themselves, but they're so proud of you for doing it for yourself and for other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions around that?
I could let you keep going if you have any more, but
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
Good, lovely. It just feels so good. Like, and I'll just keep talking this way because it just feels important all of a sudden. And especially if it's starting to like trigger things in your head where you're like, ooh, like that's not how I do it, but that's cool that Haley does it that way. But it makes me realize that I do it this way instead. What I do is like I'm feeling into the information and then it kind of sometimes oscillates with the knowing all of a sudden. But when I give you that information, it feels really good. Like I feel like a knowing that you are doing exactly what you're meant to be doing in this moment. And I feel this bigger thing coming. So just to let you know that. Okay, lovely, good, good, good. And then specifically from parent, like they just enter the picture again. And sometimes it's a little bit like that for me. Like they enter the picture, they give a little bit of information. Your guide has been here all along. So they kind of come in and start to share a little bit, but your parent, lovely, good, enters the door again. Okay, fine. And says, you've put me into a book. Does that make sense to you? And is like, let's open it again and like keep doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They say it's actually a little bit funny. Like
Yeah.
like we can get a little bit of a laugh out of it, but it details a lot of the darker things too, and it's going to help darkness to light, darkness to light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have a good way of stringing in a bit of humor into it, though, is how they put it. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you have any questions about that specifically? They put it pretty just like we just need to open it again, and then when we close it, but don't forget to open it again.
God, like,
Or
I'm like,
do it again, like part two.
Yeah, there's just so much. I mean, I kind of want to just, I guess, tell you, but then I'm also like, I'm wondering what else they're gonna, kind of curious too as to what else.
I love it. Yeah, well, I'm going to make a note of book because I want to ask you about it. And then hold on, I'm going to ask you one more thing. Let's see. They do say something in book. You put me in a book, and then there's part two. Okay, that'll be good. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to be quiet just for a little bit longer. Okay, fine. I'm going to go through some random things. There's like a book to movie or a book to film or like a book to play bill, which makes me think more of a play. But that's kind of lightly put out there in the universe. Like, should you want to grab on to any of that? Those are possibilities. Okay. They say next step. What's with the like? They open up quite like a different sort of book, or they put a book out in front of me. This feels more like a thick research book. Like I know this episode is for a research project, but they're like, then here's all of Trey's work, all in like a research book or something like that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Perfect. For some reason, it's quite thick and quite big, and it's like people are telling you it could be shorter, but you have a knowing that it needs to be as long as it is, like it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure. It feels good. That feels good. Okay, lovely, good. Okay, and then this is a future thing, Trey, but there's something about that book and then filming yourself reading parts of the book, like showing people, like hearing how you say your words is more important than how some people could read them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's like, it's almost like making sure that that's a resource that is available. Do you have any questions around that?
I mean, that seems pretty like that's good. So no, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, good.
A lot of sense.
Do you have like any other questions for a parent?
No, I don't think I don't think I do. I know maybe that sounds bad, but I really, I feel, I think you said some stuff that was pretty on. So I think that kind of lines up with some of the stuff that you were saying.
Oh, good. Yeah. And it's not bad at all. Like they don't have hurt feelings. And most people don't. So like some people do, some people don't. I always just want to ask, what was I going to ask you though? Okay. They just made me focus in on this one thing that I wrote down that says there's work to be done, but it's like an exciting, like we're excited for you. There's work to be done. Okay, I'm going to ask you this one last question. Will you tell us about the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to just give you some of the backstory of everything at this point, or?
If that's okay with you, just knowing that it will be like published, you'd give us whatever.
No, that's fine. So I think it was interesting because it makes sense and just because I do think that like once the energy of like my dad kind of came through, I think
Mhm.
it started to really kind of be a little clearer, right? And
Yeah.
like everything started to kind of focus in. And so um, one of the interesting things about that was like the break. Like he was awesome and an amazing father and changed the legacy of our whole family. But evangelical and very like in a way of like this was the tradition that he grew up in,
Yeah.
and so there was a split where I really had to kind of journey into kind of a new place, right? Where it was like, hey, there's not this is uncharted territory for our
Mhm.
whole family, and he was always supportive, but he's like, hey, this is not really something I understand, and I can't really, do much. And it's always been interesting because that apology of like, it's not like an apology for doing something wrong, but it's
Yeah.
like an apology of omission of like I just didn't have the tools at the time to,
Yeah.
to know. Um, and so that was really, really, really good. Um, and then so I just finished writing a book.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I did just finish writing a book, and the two books were interesting because the first book is kind of a memoir of sorts, and the second book is I'll be starting my dissertation, so it's a research book, and
Amazing.
so yeah, so that'll be that. And I think what was really powerful is the fact that um, with what you were talking about, the darkness of it. So part of my work and my dissertation is the language of the imaginal,
Ooh.
and unattached
Mhm.
burdens.
Okay.
So I work with people that have um, these kind of deeper complex issues.
Yeah.
And the memoir is my journey through like in the evangelical world, the demonic realm of these possession states that people enter into.
Yeah.
And a lot of my memoir, my story involves encountering people that have manifested like moments where those things have just come out. And I've
Yeah.
kind of seen it and worked with them. And another thing that was interesting about the difference is a couple years ago I went to a retreat and wasn't really expecting. I didn't know what to expect, but I went to it was a meditation retreat, and about halfway through during the meditation, I started to connect with the other side, and it was
Um,
people, and they would come to me, and they're like, "Hey, find my daughter. This, like, find this person," and it started happening like crazy, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is so new," and I wasn't sure exactly what to do with it. And I wouldn't call myself a medium today. I don't like, do what you do necessarily, but I was curious because it's like seeing different approaches and how different people are, approaching it and doing it
yeah.
and stuff. I think that was spot on there because it really, was a big thing about why I was like, yeah, let me jump in today and do this. Because I know my experience and how I've
Yeah.
kind of connected and done this uh, the sessions that I've done with people. So that was really good. And so it was just, yeah, it was cool. Cause I just finished just finished the book. Book lays out a lot of these stories of, my experiences with connecting with the other side, my experiences with
Yeah.
working with the darkness, the experience with working with, unattached burdens and stuff. And that whole idea of, kind of the right now I'm looking into this the understanding of exactly what you said, right? Like the light coming from darkness. I think
Yeah.
that was very poignant and spot on, and I think that like really encapsulates like a lot of the focus here recently. And then also you said um the book, right? Like
Mhm.
this article that I'm working on, which will eventually go into my dissertation too. I was literally had the thought this morning. I was like, okay, I want to continue to write this article and put this work out there, but also potentially record it and
Yeah.
speak it out. And before I had thought, well, which one do I want to do? And then this morning I thought of like I should maybe do both, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that was really cool that you mentioned that. Like that was like really spot on. That thought was also something that came across this morning.
Yeah. That's
Um,
because like you're just as connected, like I know you don't call yourself a medium, but like we all have these abilities, and like sounds like you've had that door flung open for you at some point, and that you're like getting it and listening to it and feeling it. So that simple thought of like maybe I should do both. It's like, oh yeah, I should
Yeah,
do both.
yeah,
As long as
a
it feels
hundred,
good. I love that.
yeah, 100%. So thank you.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, just because it like helps our listeners and it will help me maybe catch on to it quicker next time. What's the relationship with the first woman that came through?
So my wife's father got remarried to a
Okay.
lady later in life, and she was she was in my like they got married before me and my wife got married. So that was
Okay.
like, I don't know, 10 years, like over 10 years now. We moved to Vegas, so we were apart. They were on the East Coast, so we didn't see them a lot, but it started off pretty rough, and very much like a lot of her relationships were a little bit strained, but I think she kind of realized that later in life and started to, change. And even at the beginning, I realized that it was such a different energy than what I grew up in,
Uh,
that I was like, this isn't normal. Like, this is not like, we're not being a part of this. And, and my wife was like, what? And so we just, did a 180 and was like, we're going this way. And then we moved, and it was like, it was always a little bit of a challenge to
mhm.
like know what boundaries to set up, and like how to not just shut people out of your life, but to, make sure you are still setting up, protecting that energy. And then once she passed, it was still kind of one of those things where it was like, okay, how does this really, like, things shifted a lot. But allowing us to kind of like re-engage with her father, and like, reestablish those, and we moved back to the East Coast, so we're back here now, and he
Yeah.
lives close by, and so we've been that's been changing well. So yeah, a lot of the information definitely was like, on in
Yeah.
that way.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming on. Um, will please reach out if you ever would like us to post about your book. We'd love to. You just let us know.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Now, are you with are you I don't I got because I got an email through school, but are you
Okay.
connected through Melinda through how are you connected to the study, or how are those things connected? I don't even know.
So I've never met Dr. Melinda, but I am friends with Dr. Beth Sundstrom, who I think
Okay.
has worked with or is working with. No, I don't know, but I have nothing to do with like the research project technically. I mean, other than the readings and like me as a psychic medium giving them.
Yeah.
But I am in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where Dr. Beth Sundstrom is currently. So it's the research project is through College of Charleston, where she's a professor, but I have nothing to do with any of the entities other than the
Oh,
spirit.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, so
Oh, nice.
it's a very Charleston vibe here. We're down south.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a
It
good friend from Wilmington. One of my best
remind
friends is married to a guy from Wilmington. Yeah. Love
That's
it.
so cool. But
Yeah.
I know that it takes tremendous amount of energy. Well, I don't know, maybe for you it's different. For me, I definitely realize that it takes a lot of energy for me to connect in that way, or even some of the information, that you get
Yeah.
just ends up being. So I appreciate the what you give to the world and what you give to people,
Yeah.
and I just think that that's really 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 beautiful, and I'm really
Thank
grateful
you.
that you do that.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
and it was funny when we went into that opening meditation, and we were
Yeah.
seeing, and like in a field, I saw you as like one of the characters from like some lore, like I don't know what movie it would be, but like like a golden
Oh, I love that.
armor of like taking a masculine like role, like being
Yeah.
a bit like really like being in a season of a masculine like development, where there's a lot of qualities of like, okay, let me structure and figure these things out, as opposed to just those connecting things of like, okay, like the feminine maybe connects to the spirit really well, and
Yeah.
now the masculine really structures this stuff really, and like
Yeah.
learns how to structure it. And so I just see you in that, really, that I saw you in a masculine season, I guess, is what I
Yeah,
was
I
saying.
was gonna say, I was like, see, you're a medium because I am 100% like moving into, I'm starting a business with my friend Court Bechtel, which I've started to talk about on the podcast. So by the time this comes out, which will be in a few months, people will like full on know about it. But it's exactly what I'm in, like, and not
Perfect.
that it has to be this or that, but I love like good masculine energy and like structuring things and like kind of bringing this woo world into something that's more tangible and helping people like feel into it for themselves. So you're spot on. I love
And
it.
it's really important, I think, right now, because I do think that there's a grounding, a movement of grounding in order for not, I don't want to say validity because it doesn't matter, but it's like accessibility of like people
Yeah.
being able to have access to it that are in spaces that were typically once thought as like, disconnected. I
Yeah.
think having that balanced, that balancedness or that like, I want to say down to earthness because it's like, who knows what that means, but it just I think accessibility is really really important for people to be able to like relate and just latch on and be like, you know what, like I can understand, this is a normal person, she's just like me, she looks like me, she talks to me, like, why not? And so it
Yeah,
gives that
exactly. Like
access.
connection is just every day. Like it just is for all of us, truly. I love it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. And
It's
right
really
back.
necessary.
Yeah, right back at you. Thank you, Trey, so much for coming on. I can't wait for your episode to come out. And thank you so much for all of your time and energy.
Yeah, thank you, Haley.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Thank y'all for listening. Let's see. We record these episodes way before they air. So by this time, you guys have probably heard about Court and I's new brand. I am going to pop a link to it in the show notes. And by I do mean my producer, Lindsay. Sorry, Lindsay. Everyone go check out Lindsay as well. She is absolutely amazing. But there's going to be a link to our new brand in the show notes. So you guys can follow us there. You can check out what it is that we've been working on for the past few months. We're so excited about it. So excited to help this community. If you guys have any questions or know someone that would be good for the podcast to start talking about some of these new topics, feel free to email me at houseguest@haleyfennel.com. Even if it's just with their email, I'll reach out to them and invite them to be on. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for growing with me and being with me as this podcast has evolved over the last few years. I really appreciate it. You guys are why I'm here. I love you. It means so much to me. Thank you, Trey, for coming on. Thank you guys for being here again and again and again.